Step off, hoser. And welcome, everybody, to another episode. Number 27. What are you doing?
Oh! It's 27. I'm looking for the start key. I can't find it.
You're mic abusing. You're mic abusing. My poor ears.
Oh, I'm looking for this.
Welcome, everybody, to
I can't find it.
Our regular episode of Canuckleheads. How are y'all doing today? Ourselves, our supreme Canucklehead Phoenix Orum in studio with us today, as well as a very special guest, Aphinity. Welcome to the show.
Aphinity. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
And how are y'all doing today?
Fantastic.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Less wet. It stopped raining finally.
Oh, that's good. Well, coincidentally, it was supposed to thunderstorm. I don't know if it has yet. So if we do go offline, if we get kicked off, Mr. Hop and I, then you know what happened.
Yes.
Lightning struck.
So. I staged your weather over your way.
Yeah, exactly. So we're getting your weather. So hello to chat as well. I'm a little tired today. We had a big show yesterday.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Took so much energy out of me.
Awesome. We had like, what, 12, 15 guests all at the same time?
It was amazing. Following up with a big show today.
Mm-hmm.
Good times. And so just before we get into the topic today,
yes,
I had to upgrade my PC. This is a funny story. This is a funny story for people. Because like I put this PC together like probably 8-9 years ago. It was supposed to just be for video editing, and I had another PC to do my other stuff on, and I just migrated to using this full time. I've upgraded everything else except the hard drive and the processor. So the hard drive was the first one I had in there. I had a 50 GB solid state drive for my main hard drive for like almost a decade now. I honestly have no idea how I've operated with that because half of that was taken up by Windows, and I mean, here's the little dude right now. Half of that was taken up. Yeah, exactly. So I went out today and got myself a terabyte hard drive and installed that. It took a little bit longer because I forgot how many things I needed to reinstall, even though I have a lot of it installed in my secondary drives. But here we are in time for the show, and now
you did all of that before the show. That's amazing crap.
Absolutely. Now I have a PC that's ready for 2020.
Yeah, there you go. No, wait. Let's call it for 2019, since 2020 is a little jinx of the stage of the game. But that's just me being all silly.
It is an important time in 2020.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's kind of a special day.
Oh,
the stars aligned here, right? Because it is.
Oh my goodness.
It is apparently, this is something I didn't know. Found out.
Yeah, I'm a star and I aligned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is the 10th anniversary of My Little Pony.
Oh, really?
My Little Pony, specifically Friendship
is Magic. Yeah.
The re-release.
Crazy.
Came out. Yeah.
The re-release.
This was, it was, I mean, I don't know if we're exactly at 10 years, but this is the day everyone chose to celebrate it at least.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So what do we do on this festive, wonderful holiday?
You grab your ponies and you dress in Brony attire and you watch an episode and you feel happy.
That's,
I guess I don't know. I just said that. I know that's what I'm doing.
There you go.
That seems to work out for you.
Go.
What's that got in the background there?
So we got Lyra Heartstrings.
Okay.
Point it there. It's Lyra.
There you go.
This is Sunny Showers, our mascot for Vancouver Pony Expo. One of the two we have. Trailblazer is missing. That's Scootaloo.
What happened to Trailblazer?
I just don't have one.
What?
I know. I don't. I know.
Why?
Well,
exclusive.
She was kind of expensive, and she was our first one. So yeah. Anyways, we got Scootaloo, who is Rainbow Dash's kind of little sister-ish, and over here is Rainbow Dash. Well,
look
okay,
at the
it's
size of the head. It's amazing.
That's because this is a costume. This is a fursuit.
Okay. I'm kind of going
fursuit head.
She's come that big, especially heads. My goodness.
Well, it's hard to see how big Lyra is, but she's quite large.
Well, let's go.
She looks pretty big.
See. I mean, I've got a little rainbow dash here, which is adorable.
There we go.
I don't know. I've got merch like crazy. Whatever. Lyra is merchandising. Got the lunchbox, the flamethrower. Anyways,
we got the ponies in their heads. There we go.
Well, I have my pony right there. That in the background there. It's a little derpy. Yeah. A little derpy on my shelf there. It's about that's the extent of the ponies that I am aware of, outside of the fan-made one, Flufflepuff, which I know is non-canon, but I love Flufflepuff anyways. So, but you guys are the experts. So
I have a few more up there. Oops.
Oh my God! What happened? Oh,
there's a few more up there.
They're overflowing.
Kind of are.
Are they judging you at night, just looking down like that?
They're just. Well, this is my office. They just live here, and then I live elsewhere. It's just it's their room. I just come here to visit. You know.
There you go. They're looking down, judging.
But with those Vancouver prices, do they pay rent?
I'm working on that. Oats don't really translate well into dollars, but we're trying. We're trying to make it work. They pay in cuddles. They pay in hugs. They're good at that. So
there you go. That's awesome. Well, there you go. So yeah, I know that Phoenix was really excited to get you on the show today. We're really excited to have you on the show, talk about a bunch of different topics. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself there, Aphinity, and then Phoenix can ask you some questions, put you under the spotlight.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, most people call me Finn. My real name is not even a thing anymore. Even my girlfriend's family and my girlfriend call me Finn these days. So that's kind of more my real name than anything. That's spurred on because I used to be a dolphin trainer. I'm actually wearing a very dolphin-like shirt thanks to a really amazing artist named Sidian, who did all my Telegram icons, and I made it into a shirt thanks to
very
Waffles. Nice. Anyways, me. I've been in fandom since about 2006 thereabouts. I kind of was in and out of it a little bit before that, but I jumped into the furry fandom, started running conventions. I restarted a Halloween event that I here called Halloween. I've been running conventions. I'm still running that one actually. That's been 13 years now. It's a long time anyway. Oh yeah. I was involved with. I know, right? I was involved with Rainforest since the first year until its last year. I was board of directors for that. I went into Vancouver to help found that one. I was one of the co-founding chairs as well as board member. I'm still involved, but I'm not as big on involved with that one this year. These guys are great. They don't need me anymore, so I just let them do their thing. I also recently founded Vancouver Pony Expo, which is a Brony convention, and I was involved with Brony Can before that for 5 years when they operated. So I was every year of that one as well. So I do mascot work. I do. I'm a car guy. I fly drones. I've got a lot of different hobbies, too many hobbies.
Very cool. And
car guy. Yeah.
And if people were looking to do you have any website, or are they looking to contact you? You have a Twitter, anything like that? Yeah.
Yeah. My Twitter is Dolphin Aphinity, and it's misspelt with the PH. So dolphin, the word dolphin, and then affinity with a PH.
Awesome, just like it's spelt on the screen there. Perfect.
Just like it's on the screen, yeah.
Well, that's very cool. And like we run a convention, well, just one right now. It sounds like you have your hands full. I honestly, we're tearing our hair out running one convention here. I can't imagine doing more. So props to you. Like, hats off. That's amazing. So crazy. We do have one person here wants to ask a question before we jump into Phoenix's question. It says, has Aphinity, Nerniath is asking, has Aphinity heard of the greatest My Little Pony fan hero Hay? In fan circles, he prefers to be called Brony Hay. Everyone should ask him about it in Twitter. So
start the hashtag.
I don't know. I've heard that name somewhere. Where have I heard it? Maybe on 4chan or something. I don't recall, to be honest.
Which one? We got two terminologies here currently going on.
I always thought he went by Hero Nay, but
oh god.
I'm certainly familiar with a non-Philly, which is everywhere across 4chan and a number of areas of the internet. Like most Brony culture, It started in 4chan somewhere, so that's where you look if you want to find out where it started. Yeah.
It started anonymously, and then from there it expanded outward towards the internet.
I still have /MLP open on my screen right now. So
there you go. There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, I know Phoenix, if you wanted to go ahead with your line of questioning, we have some as well, but the floor is yours, sir.
All right. So how I met Finn was I was at Vancouver Expo. I was wandering around, saw him in a 501 Legion armor.
Something else I'm into. Yeah.
Something I did. I stopped this and ended up starting a train wreck in a Baymax outfit, and found out one thing after another, and I felt I should bring him on here and interrogate him, or very least ask a few friendly Canadian questions.
If I can interrupt for a second, anybody who's 501st, I just challenged you. So anyone who's on the stream, I just challenged you. Show your coin, or you owe me a drink next time I see you.
Okay, there we go. How they're going to show you a coin there, Finn?
I don't know. We'll figure it out. You have to start your own webcast and your own live stream and show it to me there.
There you go. Perfect.
Sorry. Go ahead, Phoenix.
So first,
501st.
What is a brony? What is a Pegasister for those who aren't in the know?
All right. Well, we'll get right into the description. So brony, pretty obvious to most people who have been in popular culture for a while, but brony is a term to describe someone who is a fan of My Little Pony. More specifically, generally anyway, describing an adult fan, but that isn't always the case. In fact, I've had multiple underage, I shouldn't say underage, but younger people who the target audience call themselves bronies or Pegasisters. I will say Pegasister hasn't been as commonly used as brony. In fact, I know most of my Pegasister friends usually refer to themselves as brony as much as that. So yeah, it's just people who are fans of the show.
Awesome.
So there you go, Hops. Your question was answered.
Well, as we talked about before, I was only kidding, Phoenix.
Were you though?
The word "lol" was definitely present after my tweet there, but however,
so it wasn't lack of laughter.
No, it was not.
It's a confusing term, though. I mean, admittedly, if you don't know it, then it's going to be like, what is that?
Oh, being in fandom, being trapped in fandom for the last 20 years, I'm quite aware of the bronies, My Little Ponies, the Pegasus, all the fun stuff in between. So, hey.
Okay,
cool. Yeah.
The next question is, could you give a general synopsis on what this show is about? Things that I guess the casual watcher wouldn't expect.
What's the show about? Okay, well, do you mean in terms of what I think it's about, or what they aim for?
What they're in for, what you think about it?
Okay, so the show is obviously a reboot of the 80s, My Little Pony franchise. It was meant to be something that was to try and just revitalize the brand. I mean, obviously it's owned by Hasbro and they make toys, and toys need to be sold. So yes. like a lot of shows, like a lot of shows that were based around a toy series, they needed to find some way to make that entertaining for their target audience, which was, I'm trying to recall the exact demographic. I think it's like 3 to 8 year old girls. Yep. So, I mean, that was their intention. They brought in Lauren Faust, who is, she's involved with Powerpuff Girls, with so many different series. I don't know why I'm not thinking what they are. But anyway, she's involved with a lot of different animated series. Very well respected. And sorry, you're laughing. What's up?
Oh, no, it's so like My Little Pony.
Randomly had a Transformer.
There you go.
There you go. Perfect.
There it is.
Another 80s cartoon series designed around selling toys. There you go.
I am here to protect the universe, blah, 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 blah.
I would argue, actually, that was the kind of golden era of animation, because like they were made to sell toys, but then they had to come up with some way to make it somewhat more entertaining than just, hey, here's a toy commercial.
For sure. And on top of that, basically what the plan was with the 3-prong attack to sell the toys. You had the toys, you had the comic books, and you had the cartoons. And the thing is that they knew what their age demographic was. They just knew exactly what it was, what they were involved with. And the thing is that I don't think what they were expecting was all of their franchises to become iconic. I don't think they were expecting that, because basically how toys works, which a lot of people will understand, is that a kid gets a toy, they play with it, break it, forget about it, and then move on. But that's usually how it was since the 60s, for goodness sakes.
That's just the plot of Toy Story.
This was the ongoing how these things work. But with Transformers, My Little Pony, G.I. Joe, and the list goes on from there, they weren't expecting these franchises to last not just years, but decades afterwards. Because one of the few things that came up was Transformers the movie, which was basically, hey, we're going to get rid of the old toy line and bring in new stuff. And that's where the mental scarring kind of began. It's like, whoa, what?
There's an amazing toy shop here called Toy Traders. It's rated one of the best toy shops in the world, actually. It is cool. Huge, and it's about 30 minutes out of Vancouver. I go there all the time and just look at all the nostalgia, because it's just like all the different toys. They buy and sell used and new, so they've got you can trade in your whole toy collection and make money. Someone made a mention there that there's a crossover between Transformers and MLP in the comic series, which is true. And I haven't read it yet, but I know the synopsis of it, and it's really interesting. I was not expecting them to take Rarity, which is kind of the fashionista horse pony, with a Transformer like that. It doesn't work to me, but I don't know. Hey, whatever.
It's the Hasbro universe they're trying to hatch, and that's going to be very interesting how that's going to fold up, because right now they got Transformers. They're mixing Mask in there. I heard that Rom the Space Knight will be introduced eventually, and as well as I do, my Little Pony will be thrown in the mix there somehow. Of course, Interworks. I don't know. But
and what's interesting about that is, like, even this discussion just shows you kind of the way that the show went. Because I mean, if you had told me 10 years ago that they'd be making a crossover between My Little Pony and Transformers in a comic and it would be accepted, that's not that's not something that anyone would have expected. So I guess that's what I'm getting at. With where they targeted the show is clearly not where it ended up. And so He-Man went through a huge evolution as well. Like there was how many different series of He-Man now? It's been 3, I think.
Quite a few now.
Yeah, there's a few of them. Even Kevin Smith's working on a new series of He-Man, so that's going to be interesting. What do we got here?
And Naren is saying, make Rarity a Transformer, and she has unlimited accessories.
Yep. Oh yeah. Make Rainbow Dash one, and she'll be always in style. If you're talking about the previous generation, which is interesting. Yeah. Very different than the Rainbow Dash that most people know. She's definitely not a fashionista anymore. She's like, I want to go fast. So, anyways,
did you just off topic really, really quickly? Did you ever see the death battle between Starscream and Rainbow Dash?
Yes.
What do you think the results of that?
I don't know. I thought it was a really entertaining take on it.
It was. It really, really was.
Yeah, and I see Magic the Gathering did make some MLP character cards as well recently, which was they're very limited edition, but they are legal for play, which is kind of cool. A lot of people don't know that Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro, so it makes sense.
Is it really?
That makes sense.
Didn't know that. Yeah.
So anyway, they are obviously aimed it at little girls, because that's their target market. They're trying to sell toys. Yeah. So they brought in Lauren Faust, and she ended up making it, and then they shipped it over to my hometown, which is Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And Vancouver has this history. If you know anything about Vancouver, it's Hollywood North around here, right? That's people call it that, because there's so many series made here. But a lot of people don't realize how many animated series are made here. Like Beast Wars is a good example, was made here. Reboot was made. Yeah, Reboot was made here. Pretty well every kids show that's animated is made in Vancouver, for the most part. Not all of them, admittedly, but a lot of them are. Computer animated specifically. So anyways, they brought it into a market where there's tons of people coming out of school and stuff like that, looking for something to really attach their name to. So here comes Lauren Faust with this new idea of, hey, let's make the ponies with faults. Let's actually make characters, rather than make this magical rainbow world that's just everything's perfect like it was in the first series. Because most would argue the first 3 generations and 3.5 generations were basically, oh, look at this glorified, amazing world. With some notable exceptions. The movie was actually a good exception where there was some darkness to it. But anyway, for the most part, it was just, hey, everything's happy, everything's great, let's all cheer and celebrate how great everything is. This is more about, here's a character that is incredibly vain. Here's a character that has a huge ego. Here's a character that is too honest for her own good. Here's a character that's a book nerd and doesn't know when to stop that, you know, and it just goes on and on. Here's a shy character that can barely do or say anything without feeling trapped. Here's a, you know, there's your character who's just excitable all the time and doesn't know when to quit. You know, those are the 6 main character archetypes that they went for, and they said, let's make a series. And for whatever reason, the people involved with it, along with the writers and along with everything else, they made this series that just kind of, I don't know, for whatever reason, just worked really well, and nobody expected it. To the level where the reason bronies even exist, a lot of people will say, not everyone, but a lot of people will say it's thanks to 4chan. Again, I was mentioning that earlier, because 4chan, as you know, makes fun of everything. Doesn't matter what it is.
This
right?
is true.
Yeah, anyone who's a channer out there knows what I'm talking about. It's anything that they can do to make a meme or just get lulls out of people. So naturally, people started watching the show. They're like, oh my goodness, My Little Pony, that's going to be crazy. I got to watch that. Let's get some screen grabs. So people started watching it and said, hey, it's not bad. And they're like, yeah, right.
Why you said that? It's not bad.
Yeah.
I think I could take part in more of this broadcast.
Yeah, like suddenly I'm not memeing now. It's actually, unironically, I'm posting pictures of this because it's actually kind of cool. And, or at least it was after a while. Because the initial couple episodes, whatever, you're going to take what you like out of that. But they started posting pictures, and then it became, I won't say fashionable, but fun to post things because you weren't allowed to post ponies. People would actually remove them. The mods would just say, no, you're not allowed to post that. And they'd delete whole threads. Yeah, and on 4chan, I know, of all things. So now it became a thing. In fact, most people who are early enough into the fandom will remember this. Mods are asleep, post ponies. And that became a thing. And suddenly entire threads would be just full of meme pictures of ponies. And that got around, and now suddenly it was cool to like My Little Pony. So people started ironically buying merchandise and, you know, different things. And then suddenly it became such a big thing, they made their own subpage, and now /MLP exists. So now, anyway, so that's where it started. Mm-hmm. And then it became not totally weird to like the series anymore. So more and more people gravitated towards it. And it doesn't even matter anymore what the series was about. Now it was just funny. Hey, you like My Little Pony? What do you mean you like My Little Pony? You're a guy. That makes no sense. Well, have you watched it? No, of course not. Why would I watch that? That's for little girls. It's like, whatever. You don't care. You don't matter. I'm just going to hang out with my brony friends. And it kind of became like a niche.
Little Alex was Clockwork Orange in the seat watching every episode.
So Phoenix, that was a very long, drawn out explanation, but that's what I would say they kind of aimed for with the show.
Funny thing, Kevin Smith also plugged Big Bad Toy Store on his YouTube page or his Facebook, one or the other. And I hear that Ryan Reynolds guy's from Vancouver. My source
Toy Traders. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, 100%. They've both been there. They both promoted Toy Traders. They're a great company. They support the 501st Legion very strongly. I know he's involved with a number of other charitable organizations. The owner, that is, great guy. Matthew's awesome guy. So highly encourage people, if you're in the Vancouver area at any time, go to Toy Traders. You will not regret it. Anyways,
awesome. Buy some toys.
Yeah.
My next question is, I want to go over some of the misconception. A lot of people say that the MLP fandom generally is for little girls. As you said, there's people of all ages. What would you say the general makeup of Brony's Pegasus sisters usually is?
The general makeup, it's usually 20-somethings. I remember when I first joined into the community, I found myself feeling a little bit old compared to a lot of the people there. There was a lot of late teens, early teens, even sometimes, just people that were really into the series and liked coming to the group. I'd say now it's matured. I would say it's generally 20-somethings is the more common group. But I mean, honestly, I've seen bronies as young as 3 years old and as old as 85. So I mean, it doesn't really hit any one particular area. Just like all fandom, it kind of just spreads around, but it's centered more around younger people generally.
All right.
Now, you said misconceptions, though. Is that what you were saying, right?
Yes, misconceptions.
Yeah.
Things that the outsider wouldn't expect. What are some of the positives that the community has done that you can think of the top of your head?
Well, positives, my goodness, the charitable contributions alone. I'll just, I mean, okay, you're getting me to get numbers out of my head, but, and I warned you guys about that before this.
It's round numbers will suffice. No one's going to hold your feet to the fire and say, "Give us the exact numbers."
Okay, well, I'll give you an example. Okay, so, and this is just a very small example.
Okay.
But the convention that I run, Vancouver Pony Expo. Hi, staff members. Hi, everybody. It's a fun little group. We got an amazing guy who goes by Dusty Cat to come by last year. He's quite a well-known Brony. He's in a number of fandoms, but Brony is particularly where he's known. He's known as the manliest Brony in the world, and he's been in a number of documentaries. But he did our charity auction for us, and just a bunch of random stuff that was donated to us. We raised over $6,300 out of an attendance of less than 200 people. So it gives you an idea of, and that's just for charitable donations for that one event for 3 days. Now, if you compare that to, I've seen blankets that are definitely not worth the amount that they sold for, sell for, it was upwards of $20,000. I remember that one. That was at Brony Con, if I remember right.
Goodness.
We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of money contributed into charitable organizations just from Brony conventions alone. And I know I'm not over-exaggerating that. I'd have to look up the numbers, but it's a high number, as an example. So, I mean, we always try to give back. There's been so many different groups. Bronies for Good is a known group that I know of where they're looking for people that are in bad situations and just trying to help them out, either financially or otherwise. There's been so many people that I've seen that have and most of the time, like we started years ago at BronyCon, we had the voice actor for Celestia, who is kind of like the god, I guess, if you want to call her anything. And so a lot of people look up to her as sort of like the main kind of, I don't know, well, godly figure, I suppose. So she knows that, and she plays the role. The voice actor is Nicole Oliver, great person, Vancouver native. She went in and did a series or a panel called Ask Princess Celestia, or Dear Princess Celestia, I think it was. So people came up and told their stories, and like literally the entire place was just in tears the entire time with how people have. Well, the series, helped me get through a suicidal tendency, or the series gives me, got me through alcoholism with my parents, or, helped me come clean with this, or did this, or did that. And the friends I made are just the truest friends I've ever had. And I just sitting there like, wow, this really is a bigger thing than I even thought. It started as a meme, and now it's literally a reason that people feel good about themselves. Like, wow, that's crazy. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That's wild. Yeah. So it's... Sorry, go ahead, Phoenix.
Oh, said it. All it takes is a little spark.
It's true. I mean, like that hits a lot with a lot of different fandoms, a lot of different things. Now, there is a lot of, I guess, because this is more of a cult following type of thing, right? Like, I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean, because you have like the, because I have friends who are furries. Like I did mascotting. Like I had a fursuit made.
What the hell was that?
I had a fursuit. I had a fursuit commission years ago of my Neopet. So I had that, and then that's basically how I met Mr. Hop. Actually, not because he's a furry, but because he was just like, he's like, I don't know what that is, but I want that at my convention.
It's like, yes. How can we incorporate that? And does it have friends? It does. Perfect.
So
it's always been the funny thing, because again, when we start doing EMC and stuff like that, one furry person showed up, and then two more show up. And it just keeps multiplying. All of a sudden, the corner in the back starts becoming its own programming track. And Dolphin would know exactly what I mean by that.
and so like I'm like on the fringe of the fandom in terms of furries. I knew some bronies, but I'd never really myself got into anything like that. There's so many shows that I want to watch, and there's so many shows that I need to catch up on, but I'm just like, but video games. It's usually how it goes for me. So I know the individuals, and I know the stories and the things that go on and stuff like that. So like every exactly, every fandom has their weird sides. I guess not enough people hear about the good side of the brony fandom. They just see what's on like CSI. They just see what people talk about and things like that.
X-Files. Yeah. I remember the very first time I got introduced to furry culture. I was 17 in my parents' basement watching my own television. And all of a sudden the episode of the X-Files kicks in. I'm like, oh, what's this? 2 minutes in, I'm like, oh my God, I can't get it out of my brain.
Well, and like that's most people's exposure to it.
Yeah.
And that's like the beginning and end of their exposure to it. So like honestly, and I'm sure there's a ton of great stories out there about that stuff, because I mean we see the same thing. Like anime years ago, if we're talking about anime like 10-15 years ago, was in the very same situation as My Little Pony would be, right? Cult following, not many people knew about it. They were all regarded as weirdos. And
have you seen Akira?
There we go.
I mean, a lot of them are still weirdos, but
hey,
you're saying weirdo like it's a bad thing.
We had that discussion yesterday actually with Nick Ricada. He was saying that it's a term of endearment when he says that to people. So
and he calls his kid weirdos. Hey, little child of mine, yeah, you're a weirdo. It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay to be weird, but it's one of those things that's like it kind of like grew into being a norm, right? It grew into being something that was, a quirk rather than a detriment type of thing, right? Yeah. So like, because I can see in anime and just with people like Vic Mignogna, for example, because we've met him recently, and he's a huge voice actor. We've had Scott McNeil in our neck of the woods a few times, and he was voicing many of the characters on the animations when I was a kid growing up. Lots of Transformers.
And we also had Christian from Sweet
Christian
16.
Potenza, yeah.
So
and like these individuals, like you get to talk to these people. So like again, like connecting with your character, with the character that you see. So the whole Celestia situation as well. So like it's amazing that these characters that you just might not even know mean so much to other people, and so that's a really cool thing. But yeah, was there anything that you had to say for people out there that might be saying, well, bronies are like, they're weird people, like blah 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 blah?
Well, I mean it's see, I've done a lot of that's the number one media question every time you get on camera. They say, well, isn't it kind of weird that you like My Little Pony? And I just look at people and I say, yeah, of course it is. Like, of course it's strange. I mean, is it strange when someone wears pink socks, to work, because everyone else wears black socks? Why would someone do that? A lot of the times it's almost intentional that you are doing something unusual. Hello, Optimus Prime.
Hello, human.
I think it's one of those things where you just sort of pick your poison, like everyone's got their thing that makes them the straight-edged person, and then there's this other side of themselves that they're willing to accept other people know about. Mm-hmm. And some people, that's a lot larger of a category of themselves than others. I mean, some people are very, very private. Some people are very open, like me. There's not much that you can tell me or say about me that would make me go, oh no, I don't, that's not me. No, it's like, no, I don't care. I have a life-size freaking Lyra heartstrings. Why would I care what someone thinks about me at this point? There was literally a cringe article done about me, and I eventually was in the middle of filming it, and I just looked at the person. I said, wow, this is a cringe article, isn't it? And she just looked at me and she goes, it's really looking that way, isn't it? I'm like, yeah. She's like, this actually happened. Go look up the Daily Mail article on me. And I knew 100%, like the things they were asking me to do, like they were so cringe. Like they're like, can you give a big toothy smile to every single picture? I'm just like, what? Who does that? Nobody. And it's like, can you like take the garbage out in your fursuit? I'm like, what? Why would I do that? Like, oh, can you get a fursuit? Can you get a fursuit like we saw in this news article? Which one? That's not even mine. They're like, well, can you get it? I guess so. Like, what?
Let me dial people up here.
Oh, it was just like, oh wow. And eventually she's like, so do you want to cancel this? Or like, I totally understand if you do, because she was just a contractor. And I just looked at her. I said, you know what? No, let's just do this. I don't care. Whatever. They're going to try to twist us around. Let's make it as hard as they can. She's like, all right, I'm good with that. And so, if eventually, like what I tell people, is it weird? Yes, it's weird. Of course it's weird, but
it's weird,
you know what?
Different and wonderful.
It's different. It's unusual. And I mean, the way I see the world, if you are so worried about what other people think about something that makes you happy, I really question how it is you'll ever be happy if that's the way you live your life.
Yeah.
And that's to me, it's this has been this community. The reason I restarted the convention after BronyCon ended was more because I saw that this community was something. It still had a lot of that amazingly good stuff to give, whether it's charitable, whether it's community, whether it's just smiling, running around in a stupid kigu, and I'm Rainbow Dash, and someone's like, you're too, oh no, you're not fast enough, or whatever. Just some little reference like that, and just having a laugh with someone is something that I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to see go away. So to me, I always say, awesome. Is it weird? Of course it's weird. But you know what? There's lots of weird things that people do every day, and the more you're open you are to something fun, the more happy you're going to be. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's great.
It's a very solid, very good position.
There's nothing to add. If it makes you happy, it's not hurting anyone, why stop you?
Yeah, and like I would say I would add to it, and just from my own experience and from my own knowledge about things, I would say if you're concerned about specific areas of a fandom or what have you, I would caution to say that I wouldn't paint that as the entire fandom. I'd say, there's a lot of people out there that have their own issues in life, that have their own takes on things, that have their own flavor for certain aspects of things. I think that is more towards the individual than it is the fandom. Because in my experience, everything that I've seen, about the quote unquote degeneracy of anime fans, degeneracy of bronies, etc. That's all been like, if you took away the fandom, they would still have that. they would still be that person. Yep. They'd find something else to
sports teams.
Fill that in. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we've seen that in so many different things. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, in terms of conventions, that's what myself and Mr. Hop focus on. It's about seeing that spark, seeing that electricity, like that energy with people, and creativity. You want to bring that, and you see what it means to people to be themselves, to be able to have a space where they can open up and do that.
Coming after you.
I was just going to say that this is an example. I mean, like, she was custom made, by a fan, because she decided to. Well, yeah, like, I should point out, none of the stuff behind me is store bought. None of it. All of it is custom made. Lyra,
so the toy store you were talking about from earlier. ...
You mean merch and stuff? Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Had I not just moved, I would have what most would consider a fairly impressive collection set up, but I haven't set it up yet because I need to set up some shelves in here.
Hey, can you show that again? I just want to see the detail on that, because if that was like handmade
on the Rainbow Dash, yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, she's
a little close to the camera there. So
she's 100% fan made. Now she's seen a lot of conventions. And she's just, I mean, the level of detail is quite impressive.
Yes.
Lyra is even more impressive, honestly.
Let's grab that.
All right, I'll 1 second. Takes a second to get
Don't break your back.
She's a lot bigger.
Oh wow,
It's such huge. Look at the
Yeah,
size of it.
she's what we consider a life size. I should have brushed her before this, but anyways,
it's okay. She still looks nice.
Anyways, like the whole idea was just having something that's, I don't know, like a lot of people wear costumes to cons. There's a lot of bronies who actually will carry these around as sort of like their costume. It's not the same thing, obviously.
No,
but,
obviously.
Yeah, we actually
better than the dolls, to be totally honest with you. When I was doing my work over at AN, little by little, you see these very quiet, very like you have introverbs and you have got extroverbs. These people were extra special introverbs, and they just sit there in the corner, combing the doll's hair in the middle of the convention. I'm like, oh my god, get out!
This one isn't. Awesome. This one isn't such. It isn't so much that. It's more just like.
It is not.
It's something impressive to carry around with you, and I mean, honestly, she's
and that's
so
handmade.
comfy.
And that's handmade.
She was actually made in Russia, of all places.
Wow.
I've got a Rainbow Dash coming for her from the same maker actually in the next little bit. I put a T-shirt on her just because so she doesn't get stained because she's whatever you carry her around by here all the time. Well, you know how it is. Like you're at a convention and you'll got like whatever on your hands from the wall or something, and I've dealt with that. But anyways,
yeah.
Well, we gotta make sure that we keep in line with the TOS for YouTube anyway. So
there you go.
That is amazing.
Going to the next level, Chrome. There we go. Yeah, the next level.
Next level.
Well, that's amazing craftsmanship.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with her. She wasn't even all that expensive, really, when you look at like handmade stuff.
Yeah.
Like heck, a fursuit in the furry convention world. Furry world, I should say. I mean, you're looking at multi-thousands of dollars, and I mean, she was like under 1,000. So
wow,
I mean, you look at that, and it's like and it's the same amount of workmanship that goes into that. So, anyways, but my point was that just like the fans make such amazing stuff. I mean, this is just an example. I just happen to have them available, but I've got like figures. I've got toys. Like there's been toys made by fans. There's like all kinds of different things that have exuded. I mean, every fandom, it has their kind of creative element, and probably the biggest that I haven't mentioned so far is music. The Brony music scene is unreal. I really can't even express it unless you just go and look it up. Like when the fandom broke in about like 2011 or so, 2012, all of a sudden every EDM artist that had never made a name for themselves, that had an interest in the fandom at all, or even if they didn't, they would make a remix of this music that was, for whatever reason, surprisingly catchy out of the show, because Daniel Ingram is amazing, the guy who wrote all the music, or most of it anyway. And he, all these remixes just started piling up until there was a point where you're like, you can literally listen to an entire day, more than that, of just Brony music that is legitimately listenable, not like a lot of fandom music. And I mean, I'm a furry, I'm in the 501st Legion, I'm in a bunch of different, like the Star Wars world, I'm a Trekkie, I'm in a million different fandoms. I can't even come close to equaling even a small snippet of the Brony music scene. That's just another example. So, and then of course art. So
that's so awesome. Yeah. Well, I know that you're into a few different projects. Do you have something coming up like soon? I mean, like pandemic stuff is just ravaged most of the convention scene. But do you have any projects that are going on right now?
So the next one coming up is what we call Halloween, howl like a dog, so HOWL. That's been running for, this will be our, I don't want to get this wrong. It might be our 16th or 17th year.
Wow. That
we've run. Because we had our 15th 2 years ago, so this will be our 17th year, I guess. So anyway, that's been a very long running event. That's coming up in November 13th and 14th. We were hoping to do something where people could attend, but obviously that's not possible. So we're doing a bit of a hybrid event ish, not really hybrid, more to the fact that we're still using the hotel to actually make the stream, but it's going to still be a live stream. So you get to see in a familiar environment that people have been coming to for potentially over a decade, and just get a lot of the same things going. So that's November 13th and 14th. That's a furry, well, and Brony. Honestly, it's kind of a multi-fandom event. It's mostly furry focused, but that doesn't mean you can't bring up other fandoms, and people do all the time, which is
Very
great.
cool. And so is there a cost to that, or is that
100% free?
100%
just go to
free?
it's halloween.ca. It's again HOWL. In fact, we just announced our our Discord channel for public, because we hadn't actually had a Discord channel prior to now. So that was just put up I think 2 days ago by my vice chair. Hi, Tamron. Thanks for all your work. So we've been working really hard to make that happen, and I gotta say it's been challenging because, man, it's so depressing these days. Like, it's so hard to motivate people to really care about something right now, and it's been tough. It's been very tough, but I know we're pulling together, and I know it'll come together. We're all working really hard to make sure people have something fun to come and enjoy.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Adding that to the description of the video there, so that should be live. If people want to check out halloween.ca, that is a pretty cool thing coming up, so you guys can check that out. And in terms of events, so that's not the only thing you do, right? You do other events?
Yeah, I'm involved with okay, well, so Halloween is kind of furry focused, so I'll keep on that track.
Sure.
So Vancouver is another event that I'm involved with, although these days I'm kind of in the background of that event, but I still love it to death, and the people running it are very, very talented, very great people. They've done their best to go work with the growth, as you guys can probably attest to. When you grow, you tend to get you get some good and you get some bad, and then you kind of filter it out and you kind of keep going. So they've certainly had that, and I was involved with a lot of that, but it's a great event. So that's Vancouver is the name of it.
Very cool.
So just Vancouver.
I'll be right back, Mr. Hop. You have the floor.
No problem. And when is the date for that particular event?
I don't think the date has been set yet, but it's usually in about April, March or April time frame.
Gotcha.
I know with the pandemic and everything, they've kind of
that's really put a lot of kibosh on a lot of different events running through. Like right now, what we're seeing here for Kitchener Comic Con is that we're the bestest comic book convention of all of Southern Ontario right now, the biggest and the best. So it's like, okay, how'd you get that? We survived them all.
Yep. Oh, it's tough.
Yeah, we got really lucky with our event date. And the thing is that we just went forward like we usually do. We brought Vic in. We had an awesome time. Of course, as you probably know, there's individuals that like to just cause drama for the sake of internet clout and virtual pats on the head. And they try to push the event down. But basically, the biggest problem is that when you push myself or my team members down, our greatest strength is just the opportunity to get back up and keep moving forward. And again, we bring Vic in with all the different dynamics that he's currently going through that obviously resonated through our event. But however, long story short, we had a fantastic time. And again, with the pandemic floating around, it's like every other event shut down. One of the few things I mentioned within our talks before today's broadcast is I run a zombie walk, which is really a food drive. There's a hidden joke in there if you look hard enough for it. And exactly, it's like, why are zombies putting together a food drive?
Because there's not enough brains to go around, so they need to raise some money to get more brains.
There you go. And of course, I've got my odd sense of humor with that, and it resonates well through my community. But the biggest thing is right now, people are saying, "Hey, you know what? Thanksgiving only six per household, or in your social bubble, the case may be." It's sort of like, how am I going to stitch together an event where you can only have 6 people together in your family circle bubble? It's like, it may not happen. And of course, with the weather changing and everything else like that, that has sent more shockwaves through the event community in general. And it's like, it's been hard going. It's been tough.
It is very tough. And that's the thing. Like, I know a lot of people are kind of looking at this going, can we even get through this bad time? Like, fandom conventions are a very big part of fandom. I mean, the whole reason they exist is to celebrate what we do, and it's hard to do that in any other setting.
And on top of that, the entertainment industry is changing massively and rapidly, and people don't understand this as well. It's sort of like one of the few things about fandom. It's all based around pop culture, movies, TV shows, and stuff like that. And the thing is, when you got the movie theaters completely shutting down, and you got the major movie studios putting off their tentpole productions, that's going to be very difficult bringing forward because, again, some people may or may not understand this, but the thing is that the movie studios live off of the tent poles, which gives them the actual working capital to expand into other aspects of fandom. And when you have your major tentpole not generating any revenue, that basically sends a very unfortunate cascade effect against everything. And it's going to be interesting how the fandoms are going to be working moving forward. Like, as an example, will Hasbro sell themselves to Disney because they can't keep themselves afloat? That's an interesting question. Or will they sell themselves to another larger entertainment cooperative like AT&T, perhaps, or Warner Brothers, or Universal? The case maybe we don't know, because one of the few things as well is that Wizards of the Coast sold themselves to Hasbro. So it's like, that's always interesting how one large company completely eats up another one.
All I can say is I hope Hasbro does sell to Disney, because I want to be able to call Big Mac a Disney princess.
That would be funny.
And all of you fans know what I'm talking about. And also, I think it would be great to call Starstream a princess. That would be great.
That would be very funny. But the question is, which variation of Starscream? There's so many.
We'll leave that to the fans. We'll leave that to the fans. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. I have to take a flamethrower to our house because we're under attack by insects late in the year. It's so distracting when they're just like constantly buzzing past your face and you can't do anything because you're on camera. So
Lemony sends his regards.
That must be it. That must be it. Honestly, we get we're getting assaulted by a lemon. So what did I miss there? Anything?
Not too much. We're just talking about the entertainment industry in general.
Got it.
And how movie theaters are folding up, and how the tentpole productions are the main capitalists of bringing in revenue. And the thing is that without these tentpole films or these movie productions actually bringing in their main core revenue, how that would possibly have a negative cascade effect towards smaller projects and stuff like that. And a possible glimpse of where things may or may not be in a few years from now, just in case Hasbro says, you know what, we can't move forward with this anymore. We're going to sell it out to the highest bidder, that'd be AT&T.
Which at this stage, I don't think anyone is expecting, because Hasbro is definitely doing just fine.
They're trying really, really hard. Like, as an example, they have their own streaming service they're putting together. They're trying to merge all of their actual their product lines into a large multi-tier Marvel Comics universe, and that's going to be interesting how that comes together. But it's definitely, and my God, that's scary cat again. And basically, it's going to be interesting how things are going to be in the next few years, because again, with the Transformer line, you know, Hasbro is trying. They're going to different platforms. They're utilizing other production companies, and they just really want to make things work. And that's just one branch of the Hasbro entertainment.
Well, and getting back to conventions, you were mentioning, just we were talking about how difficult it is to run a fan convention these days.
Yeah.
One of the big ones that we're really concerned about, that I'm concerned about, is that the other event that I'm involved with, that I love dearly, which is Vancouver Pony Expo, which is vancouver.ca, if you want to check us out, or vancouver.org also works, but vancouver.ca. And that's Hoover, Hoover. Yeah.
Awesome.
But that event, has always been in a hotel, and we want to run, and we thought, January will be safe. We'll be fine in January.
Yeah.
No problem.
No problem.
So we announced like 6 months ago that we're going, to heck or high water.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we can. We're trying. Our biggest problem has been like everyone else. It's not so much, the fans or even the staff. It's now, okay, can you get guests to attend? Like, will they? Will their agents even allow them? Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we have the benefit of being in the same hometown where most of our principal talent is from. So because My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic was made in Vancouver, almost all the voice actors are from here, with exception to Tara Strong and John Delancey and a few others. But most of the talent is here, so we can quite literally say, hey, can you drive 15 minutes down the road or grab, a SkyTrain and meet us and we'll give you some money to come and talk to fans for a while and sign autographs and make money.
Those transportation problems.
But here's the thing. How many of those people will be willing to come out and potentially put themselves in harm's way? I mean, we would obviously not put them in any kind of harm's way if we can avoid it, but you never know, right? It's possible. So it's
from one convention owner to another. Cellophane. There you go. Yeah.
Well, hey, our plan was to actually even not have the fans even talk to them directly, like have like a glass, or even just like doing a virtual
cage. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like basically just
octopus arms come out. I will sign that for you.
We had all kinds of plans, but like it's looking more and more like we're not even going to be able to try to do this safely because people just won't do it. And so it's like, well, we'll see. Like, we're still working it out. We've got some great contacts, but it may end up being a virtual event as well. And it's like, well, we're already signed into our contract. Like, I don't know if we can get out of it. And now it's like, that's a real threat. Cause I mean, our fan conventions, people don't realize there's no money in this at all. I don't make any money.
The thing is that the peoples that are here, we do understand.
No, I know you do, but the fans think, they look at their ticket price and they're like, well, I'm spending $40, $50, $60, $100, $200.
Money?
They must just rake in the money and just like eat caviar all day in their spa or something. No,
in the hot tub.
I know people don't realize that there's real legitimate cost to these events, and that's one of the big problems with fandom in general, is that people feel, especially when you get a negative situation. And you mentioned that, Hop, a little bit, how you can get someone who means incredibly well, that they're trying to point out a flaw in policy or a problem that they saw or something because they believe that they're helping. But in the end,
or they don't know the full issue.
You don't understand like how far that issue might have progressed before they even saw it. Yeah. Like, maybe anyway, and as a result, money starts to go down because your attendance goes down, your staff goes down because now nobody's motivated to be involved anymore. And it's like, that's the biggest hit, because like, while attendees will come and go, if you don't have enough staff to run your event, you can't run your event. I mean, it's
true.
Absolutely true.
And that's something we're definitely suffering for in the Vancouver area right now, because there's been, unfortunately, some pretty strong negativity. And I will say that some of it was justified. There is definitely some justification in some of the things that were raised, but the way it was done has caused such a rippling effect that's causing everyone that was involved, that just did this for fun because it's something great that they wanted to give back. I mean, you don't want to do something you're not getting paid for if there's drama in it. It's just like, no, nobody wants that. I don't want that. But, it is what it is, right? So I'm hoping that the drama and the cost thing I hope we find a balance between all these events that I'm involved with and all the other ones I see around town that are struggling, not just the ones I'm involved with, but we're all doing our best, and we need your support. We need your support.
What, me?
It's so fascinating because like we're on opposite ends of well, I would say the world, because Canada is the only place that matters.
Well, everything's in a 4-block radius. Go to Ricada.
Our country is the only one that matters. So we're basically at opposite ends of the country, right? I mean, like I'm sure that I know there's events in Quebec. I'm not sure about like New Brunswick or Newfoundland or anything like on the Maritimes end of things, because like I don't really hear much about that. But I know like in terms of large conventions, like Ontario, Quebec, and BC are like the mainstays for large conventions, just because of like their destination spots like Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, obviously. Really big like super cities. So it's amazing to hear because like I don't hear much drama outside of the stuff that we get in our little group here, in our little
community.
circle.
Oh God, community.
But it's so interesting to hear that there is that sort of thing that's happening like right across the board. So like without getting into too much detail or however much detail you want to get into it, what kind of stuff are you running into with conventions and events that you're part of?
In terms of drama kind of situations, negativity, you mean?
Yeah.
So the big one, someone got the phone.
Sorry for a second.
I guess the big thing is there's, because we're run by volunteers, and a lot of people think that because you're a volunteer that you just put your entire life into one thing. There's holes that show up in policy. And the biggest one that we were dealing with in the last little bit was a general attitude that most people are good when they come to a convention. That attitude in itself, I want to believe is the case, like that most people in fandom and most people who come to the events I run are generally good people, but there are unfortunately that's not always true. And one of the things that I learned this year more than anything was that you can't be safe enough when it comes to the most serious of issues that you want to never have to deal with, but that unfortunately, if you don't have a plan for that, there are very legitimate concerns that can be raised about that. And that's probably the biggest thing that we dealt with this year. I don't want to get into specifics, but there's been a number of situations regarding, I don't want to call it screening because it's not really the right word, but I guess vetting of both staff members as well as attendees. And sorry?
Interesting.
Yeah, and so we've had some concerns about that. Some events had more significant concerns raised. And again, I'm not going to try to downplay them. They were legit, like in every case. I just, again, focus on the idea that all of these things that could have been raised, while I know people will disagree with me in saying this on a couple of situations, they could have been raised differently, and they probably would have been handled maybe even better than they have been, because it ended up destroying the confidence and the willingness of a lot of very good people that would otherwise have been continuing to push the fandom and the event forward. So that's what we've been dealing with mostly. And again, I'm not going to downplay it. They were serious issues, very serious, that needed to be addressed. But like, again, guys, we're trying to help. Like, we're volunteers. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And I think if anybody looks at an event and says, you're evil because this thing that happened then, and I'm going to make sure the world knows it. Okay, you might be right. But what are you getting out of this by doing that? Is that really going to help the event? Is that going to help the community? Okay, maybe in your mind it will, and maybe in the end you'll get what you were looking for. But what about the 95% of the other people who might not even have a clue or potentially even care about that subject you brought up? Which is its own problem, because maybe they need to care, but they don't. So now you're end up, it's a minority situation, and I really wish there was a proper way to address it. Yeah,
it's
no,
tough.
I fully understand that. I mean, we just run our one event right now, Kitchener Comic-Con, and we have been dealing with the same, like, for lack of a better word, same shit for the past 10 years that has crossed over from previous events that we've run into Kitchener Comic-Con. So this is stuff that's predated Kitchener Comic-Con that people are still griping and crying and screaming and making Reddit threads about.
And oh gosh,
and it's nothing. Like, I can understand I can understand a bit of what you're talking about without even getting into details. Like, we haven't had any of those situations where it's been that serious at any of the events that we run. Thank goodness, and knock on wood. Because the most heinous thing, I guess, that we've dealt with, probably, it kind of hit a peak this year, because this year we had our big guest. We swung for the fences because of the whole Vic Mignogna situation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what's going on with him and the accusations or allegations, I should say, because there was no proof. Allegations of misconduct from people and blah 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 blah. 2 years ago, and after a year of going through all that stuff, and he's taking his accusers to court for defamation, not the other way around. And so basically, it's gone through by that time it had gone through a year of a whole bunch of people looking into his background, a whole bunch of people looking into the claims, etc. And nobody could find anything. So there was no issues, no nothing. So we ended up getting
ticket.
Yeah, nothing of any red letter against him at all. So after all that research and after all that stuff, we decided, you know what, we're going to swing for the fences. We wanted somebody that was a big name to kind of to show that we were a contender in terms of a convention, and that we were going to go out and that we're going to get someone for the fans, for the people that want to see it, and do something good at the same time. So we ended up getting Vic Mignon assigned, announced him, and we had a whole unholy war come down on us for that.
Oh, goodness gracious, yes.
And the worst thing I say that came out of that, which really woke us up to what degree of security we need to put forward as a team. Thankfully, no one got hurt, but we actually had someone message us on social media, on Instagram, in an absolute terror, because they were receiving messages from somebody saying that this individual that was messaging this other person was going to go to Kitchener Comic-Con. They were going to kidnap their girlfriend and do really nasty things to them. And
in the washroom.
Yeah, in the washroom, which we would never let that happen anyways. But
no, it would not happen.
So it's just it brought that to our attention. It's there are some really disturbed individuals that are out there, and even if it wasn't true, even if this person wasn't planning on doing it, just the thought that someone could think that, it's well, good Lord, I guess we really need to step up security for this, just because they want to ruin a reputation because we invited somebody they didn't like. And it's the same sort of deal. We've dealt with a lot of morons and meatheads over the past year. People get mad because you claim that you're sponsored by Marvel. No, we didn't claim that we were sponsored by Marvel. We said we got material from Marvel to give out in exchange for advertising them.
There's a sponsorship. There's just some of the background details.
And the point is, there's a lot of stuff that goes into convention. There's a lot of inner workings, a lot of red wires, a lot of yellow wires, a lot of green wires, and they're all there, and no one knows what the hell they're connected to except the people that are putting them together. So it's for people out there that might have an issue with your convention, that might have an issue with our convention, it's if you really have an issue and you want to make a difference, go and volunteer and see how much work actually goes into it.
Or better yet, start your own freaking convention and see how that all comes together.
Well, we've had you always have, you'll always have people that feel like they can do it better than you, right?
Of course.
Exactly.
My attitude is to those people is then show me.
Yeah.
Because I have no problem with people starting an event or doing anything, but when you start to base your entire idea on negativity of what someone else truly put their heart into, they really, really meant only the best for this. They didn't make money on it. They weren't trying to do bad. Maybe something bad happened. I don't know, right? But you got to see this from anyway. It's the general attitude of just. Why is it that people feel that being negative and bringing negativity towards something that is trying to be positive is a wholly good thing? And unfortunately, that just seems to be so commonplace in today's internet society. I don't know that there's a solution for it. And
there isn't one. The only thing you can do is have closed events. Basically, your friends bring friends in, and that's it. But the thing is that when you get to that level of things, it's no longer a public event. It's now a very closed party. And the funny is that's kind of where conventions stemmed from in the first place. As you mentioned before, living long and prosper. Basically, back in the day, people got together to talk about Star Trek, and they had lots of fun. Basically, people together was like a mini party, and that just grew and grew and grew and grew.
I if I can bring it back to maybe one of our previous topics, people were talking about Crumb. You were talking about how furry has kind of become a part of sort of internet culture and just in general culture of today's alternate culture, I suppose. I had a very interesting conversation. It was about 10 years ago at this point, with a gentleman who was he was fairly well aged. I would say he was probably in his 60s, possibly even 70s. We were at a convention called VCon, which is one of the oldest conventions in North America, by the way. I don't know if they haven't run this year, but they were running, I think, that last year. Okay. VCon is a science fiction convention in the classic sense. We're talking literary. Okay, so it's a literary science fiction and fantasy convention, and we're at I'm in the lounge, or what do they call it? Hospitality, where they had just free drinks for everybody. So nice. He looks at me, and he's just a very nice gentleman. He walks up to me. He's wearing a suit, and he was just really nicely dressed. And he says, "So how are you doing?" I said, "I'm okay." And I was helping with the convention. I was in operations. And he says, "How's your convention going for you?" I said, I'm a little confused, I think." And he says, "Oh, really? Why is that?" He says, I said, I'm not used to conventions like this. And he said, "Well, what are you used to?" I said, "Well, I'm a furry, so it's a bit of a different kind of event when you go to a furry convention. There's a lot more just kind of interaction. The stuff is it's a lot less talking and a lot more doing kind of thing." And he looks at me, he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Are you familiar with furry?" He says, "Oh yeah, I know. You guys are going through a bit of a media problem right now, aren't you?" And that was right in the peak of the CSI stuff, and and I said, "Yeah, we definitely had a problem with the media with the Tyra Banks show and all these different bad things that happened back then." And he goes, "So you're basically us about 15 years ago?" And I said, "What do you mean us?" He said, "Well, you mean like Star Trek and sci-fi and stuff, where you didn't hear about the the Klingon sex parties?" And I said, "Sorry,
whoa."
I said, the what?" And he goes, "Oh, well, 15 years ago or 20 years ago in the 80s, that's all the media could report on was the Klingon sex parties that everyone who was into Star Trek was doing when we went to conventions." And I said, "I've never even heard of that." He goes, "Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about it, that was all the media focused on that time ago. And now Star Trek and sci-fi is a celebrated part of American culture. So you know what? Don't worry about it. Furry will get there too."
Don't worry about it, kid. You'll be fine. Just keep your eyes on the road.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was a really, and what's funny is it really seems to have come true, because now 10 years later, furry really has become more mainstream compared to what it used to be. Like, it was a fringe, really strange thing. I mean, talk about Brony being strange, fair enough. I mean, it has its own weirdness and so forth, but like furry is almost like, I mean, it's in how many shows now? Like Bob's Burgers did an episode. There's like it was in The Simpsons. There were guys that like, furries for the mayor or whatever was like a big thing. It's everywhere. Like, people don't really even think about it anymore. Heck, you can buy fursuits at Walmart now. I mean, like,
really?
For $49.99. There you go.
I know, exactly. So anyways, I guess I was just trying to connect with you with what you're saying, Hop, where it's sort of like there's a bridge where things become accepted, and anyways.
Oh yeah, for sure. And always the thirsty question always is, what's going to be the next screw up? What's going to come down the pipes? How can we get the attention off the heads? Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly what you said about the whole Kapla. Kapla mofo. And basically having that in the far distance of things. Like, again, some of the people that we hanged out with back in the day, and some of the people that have been problematic with us, were the same people that called the cops on certain Star Trek conventions as well from back in the day, saying they're selling weaponry and they got pointy edges and stuff like that. And the cops came in, seized everything, and they looked at it and went, "What the fuck is this shit?" Because again, it's not die cast, it's die cast metal. It's not made from iron or steel, and it's got like, it was just completely silly. But it just really takes a few people who are basically flipping busybodies to flip things on its head, blow things out of proportion, and they throw it online. And of course, they take the date off of things, which is the best part as well, because people read it for the first time, they go, "Oh my god, I didn't know this happened back 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Well, about 6 months ago, speaking on that topic, there was a person who for Star Wars Day, this is a 501st thing.
Oh, I remember that.
Do you remember when the stormtrooper got arrested and pulled to the ground?
Yes, get down the ground. I can't. Stormtroopers' costumes don't bend that way.
Yeah, you literally can't do it unless you break your armor.
Girl, oh my God, she was crying and everything else like that. And at the end of the day, she was doing free work for like a pizza place or something like that for promotions and basically just took one person saying, there's a person wearing white armor and they have a gun. Cops come out going, what in the blue hell is this?
Interestingly enough, though, there are a lot of rules around the 501st Legion for that. Now, she's not 501st from what I recall. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think she was.
You're absolutely correct. It was basically a person with a Star Wars outfit doing little promotional work for an independent pizza place of all things. It's like,
So, anyways, but we know. I wish I had my armor here. I could show you, but the blaster.
Oh, good.
the blaster. Sorry.
Don't even with conventions, because that happens. People bring replica weapons to conventions, and they don't have the orange tips or the peace bonding. That kind of stuff happens. She shouldn't have been moving around that gun in the first place.
Well, that's what I was going to get at. Is I've been at events where we actually. The general rule is since Disney bought the Star Wars franchise, they set out some rules for the 501st because they own the characters, so we have to kind of go by their rules, and we're very fortunate to be able to even do that. 501st is a very specific subsection of costuming in that we build our costume, and if it's to the spec that allows us to be part of the Legion, then you get accepted. So it's one of those like build your costume, prove that it's actually up to the standard that we need it to be, so that everyone looks the same when everyone's marching together, and that's kind of what the 501st is. And I was fortunate enough that I built a costume that met those requirements, and I love the stuff we do. It's so much fun, but there are rules, and Disney says if you are not told specifically, you are not to use your blaster. You're not to even hold it or even have it in your holster. And that's because the E11 blaster in Star Wars that Stormtroopers carry is literally a Sterling submachine gun. That is what it is. It is a Sterling submachine gun with a bunch of stuff stuffed in the barrels and a weird ammo counter put on the top. That is all it is, and it's painted black. So, I mean, that could easily be a real firearm, and there's no way that anyone would know if you're just looking at it. I mean, mine is literally molded off of a Sterling submachine gun, so it's not unusual to have a reaction the way that was done. But like
there was a lot of things into that. Like one thing that I do know of is that the person was all dressed up, didn't even have a blaster. It was a blaster holder, and what it really came down to, it was a busybody within the block, going, I don't know what this is. Oh my God, 9/11 now.
Let's use the right term. It was a Karen. Okay, it was
How do we know it's not a Karen? How do we know it's not a Jennifer or a Barbara?
No, it's a Karen.
It's a Karen.
It's a Karen. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess I mean, you have to know your audience and know where you're going. I mean, like I would never walk in public now with my blaster.
Yeah,
it's just not something you do. You just don't do it.
We've had issues where some cosplayers they forego the rule to have the orange tip. It's very suggested to do it at our conventions. We don't have, unfortunately, the manpower or woman power or people furry power to go and inspect every single weapon. Unfortunately, otherwise we would. But some people bring in props that they want to go as realistic as possible. And one of our cosplayers last year did this. I don't remember who he was cosplaying, but he had a gun, and it was basically an airsoft gun that didn't have any firing or ammo clip in it or whatever. And he brought it in and was accosted by security to make sure that it was a safe weapon. So, for anybody out there that is thinking about trying to it's just an airsoft gun, or it's just this or that, it's what have you. No, don't play around with it, because it's better off to just forego it than try to risk anything like that. But Phoenix,
cosplayers do is get Nerf guns. Those work just as well.
I was going to say Nerf guns are a good option because they at least look like a firearm, and no one's going to confuse it with a real firearm. So that's
exactly. Nice. Phoenix, did you have some topics? I know that we kind of went off on a tangent there. So
us on a tangent? Never.
But did you have anything that you wanted to bring up?
A few things. I like how Finn mentioned the boom with the furries. I think Disney played a lot of that too. We saw the first Robin Hood movie from I believe the 80s, maybe early 90s that made a thing. Then a few years later, we see Zootopia happen. And that just kind of made it more of a norm than just these weirdos in basements dressed up as animals, right? No offense, Finn.
And unfortunately, the internet happened to Zootopia as well, but yes.
Well,
yes.
Again,
to be clear, and I've been corrected on this, there are fans of Zootopia, and then there are furries who are also fans of Zootopia. There are apparently a very strong separation between them, and I was like given the riot act about confirming that the people who like Zootopia are furries. It's like no. I'm a Zootopian. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Okay.
You are. Oh, I gotta stop stepping on my cord here. My light's turning off.
Zootopians are coming.
I have all this like automated lighting and it turns on and off sometimes without me realizing it. It's like, oh wait, okay. Anyways, but yeah, no, the Zootopia is a thing for sure. It was a big motivator for a lot of people to sort of think about the anthro-animal side of themselves. And a lot of people have always said, "What makes me a furry?" And I mean, I've often said, Phoenix, you mentioned the Disney's Robin Hood, which was a 70s and 80s movie. If I say to them, like, did you enjoy that movie? And a lot of them were like, oh, yeah, that's one of my favorites from when I was a kid. Or if they're younger, then you say, how did you feel about Zootopia? And they're like, oh, I loved it. It's like, okay, have you ever made a character based around your interest in that? Have you ever like thought about yourself as that character, or like a character that you made or got artwork done of? And most of the people who are furry leaning will say, oh, absolutely, I made my own character. And I'll say, well, okay, you're already in the fandom then in a lot of ways, because you could be. That's all furry is just taking an interest in anthropomorphic animals and then making something that represents yourself as a part of it. And that's it's not that hard to really extend from there. So yeah.
I like how Zootopia normalized it though, where before Zootopia there was still an awkward feeling about furries because of X-Files, because of CSI, you looked at these people and you thought, well, these guys are freaks. They're into all sorts of deviant activity. Where you look at Zootopia and it kind of, I guess, numbness, the impact of it, it made it more, I want to say, socially norm than what it used to be seen as. Does that make sense?
I think you're right. I mean, I think it's cult. I mean, first of all, you got to think of like what is culture, and what is it that makes something negative in a culture. And deviant behavior is nothing more than something that people wouldn't normally do, right? So if you think about something that people wouldn't normally do, that could be something as simple as, well, you shouldn't cut your food like this, holding a knife like this or whatever, because that's deviant. I mean, there was a time in certainly in English culture where that was the case. You literally couldn't hold something wrong, or you would be shunned for it. I mean, now today people are a lot more accepting of simple things like that, but now bigger topics like, thinking of yourself as an animal is now something that people kind of go, that's weird. And I think that's wrong, and you shouldn't do that, and you shouldn't be like that. I mean, you shouldn't be watching My Little Pony. That's for little girls. That's not appropriate. You shouldn't have plushies. You're a grown man. Like that's all things that like are deviant behavior according to most people. But then you get into the other side of it where it's like different fandoms will have even stronger things where even people accused of being deviant wouldn't necessarily be accepting of or open to. And so there's levels, right?
Well, it's like we were mentioning earlier. It's like when you look at this stuff, and again, I'm gonna dig into it a little bit here, but there's a lot of conceptions out there where people assume that because you're a furry, then you're into X or Y or whatever. That's not a factor. I mean, like for a lot of people, for most of the furries that I know, it's like just because you're a furry doesn't mean you play video games or doesn't mean you do like certain weird things or blah blah blah. That's the individual. right? If you take away being a furry, they're still going to be into that stuff. Like they might still be into S&M, or they might be into, collecting pop figurines, or they might be into watching anime, or like
any number of things.
Any
usually
number
together.
of things.
Yeah.
Usually together. and some circles that people create might be easier to get into certain things, but that doesn't mean that because you are, then therefore you will be. That's not an exclusive thing. So like I know a lot of people out there are saying it's like, well, the furries are into this kink or that kink. It's like, well, no, I know plenty of furries that are just not into anything except just furries, and it's like they just like furry stuff. They just like animals or cartoons or what have you.
Animal.
I mean, like just I mean, look, just
literally.
Case in point, though. I mean, look at Hollywood right now.
Oh God.
Right? look at Hollywood. Look at like the Epstein situation and blah blah blah. It's like these individuals were like millionaires. They could literally have any person on the planet they want, and look at what they do. Right? Now, does that mean that every single actor does the same thing? No, it doesn't mean. It means that those are those people, and they have quirks and things they need to work on as people. That doesn't mean that every single actor or whatever else. Now, does it mean like that Hollywood click there because there's a majority of those people that they're comfortable being that around each other? Does that mean that that's more apt if you're in there? I mean, it's more accessible, but doesn't mean that everyone is going to do that, right? So, like, I don't think that in terms of the furry situation, completely separate stuff. But again, like, look at the Smash Brothers community, right? And the stuff in the news that's been coming out about the Smash Brothers community. Look at like if you look at different like video game communities or card game communities, like Magic the Gathering, for example. I think like Jeremy Hambley exposed a huge issue with the Magic the Gathering community, and people were up in arms about that. So it doesn't necessarily mean like because that group does something or people pick out specific things, I don't think that the entire genre should be criticized for it.
I think you nailed it. I think that's the thing with furry is, and people often say like, well, what is your motivation to be involved in a community that's so unusual? And I mean, this comes back to the whole Brony thing as well. Like, why would you watch My Little Pony when you know it's something you're going to get critique for? And I mean, we already touched on that, where I just basically said, if you can't be yourself and be happy with what makes you happy, then you've got bigger problems. And I've always said that be open to things that make you happy. If you can sit there and watch Zootopia and be the most elated person in the world, your depression melts away, you have nothing but a smile on your face, you grab your Judy Hopps plushie and you just snuggle it and it just makes you feel just all the better. Why would you not do that?
Exactly.
Like what is wrong with people where they have to limit what they're allowed to do that makes them happy? And that's why I've always
I think that every one of us here in the chat, as well as in this studio right now, I think we all know that answer. These people are bitter. They're unhappy. They're just like morally bankrupt individuals. We've seen it in a bunch of different situations where we've had it, like myself and Mr. Hop. Both collectively and individually have had it happen to us. These individuals, they aren't happy and they can't find happiness, which is sad. And they find ways to bring other people down because that's how I guess they feel like they can fulfill themselves by having like everything else burn around them. Like I don't get it. Like I don't understand it. Like for what we've been talking about before, what is the motivation, right? So we ask people when they come after our convention, what are you trying to do? Well, we don't want you running your convention. Okay, well, if we don't run our convention's not going to be a convention. Okay, well, it's better to they would rather not have a convention at all than have us running it, which is like, well, okay, but that'll make you happy, maybe, probably not. But it's also going to like make everyone else who really actually enjoys the convention incredibly upset and sad. So like, why would you wish for unhappiness for a huge swath of people when you can just ignore the fact that it's happening, or just like not buy the product, or just not support it, or just go on with your life and do literally anything else other than try to burn something down?
Yeah. And also there's two other aspects I'll add to that as well. One aspect is basically a lot of these people are seeking attention because maybe they weren't hugged enough as a child, or maybe in their adult years they really haven't really found that extra special somebody. So they put their Hellraiser hooks into whatever makes them upset. And the other aspect is that this is sort of a serious one. Some of these people are undiagnosed with mental issues. And that's the real aspect behind a lot of this stuff. You can look at them and say, hey, these are happy, shiny people. But the thing is that underneath the hood, what's really turning the crank? Because there's a lot of people I've sat down with and going, you know what? There's something a little off with you. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm not saying it to be venomous, but there's just something that is off. And then after a year or two, I could totally see it. They're undiagnosed and pick your mental illness here type of thing. And need to sit down with a counselor and talk to them, because that's also another issue I'm finding out through fandom. And the thing is, it's come up over and over and over again. And it's very, very unfortunate, because then these people basically start developing a narrative in their head and they start coming after us. And we sit back and no, that's not what happened. Here's what took place. It's like, oh, no, it happened this way. Blah, blah. It's like, no. And then you realize they got multiple personalities, or they have some form of issues along those lines, and it's like, that's problematic. But that's also part of the whole gig, I guess you could say.
Full disclosure, I wanted to say, Mr. Hop, for a long time I thought you were the furry, not Crumb, just by your name. And I don't want to take away from what Finn was saying. I can wait for my next opportunity.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Phoenix.
Yeah, what?
All right. So, you mentioned being a con chair for Seattle Rainforest. A lot of that is
not chair. I was never chair, but I was on the board. But I was
on the board. Yeah. On the board. My apologies. Yeah. I hope that doesn't get me in trouble. You're sitting on the board. A lot of people see Rainforest as being the one thing that turned people off from furs in general. What happened that night? What went down, and what are the misconceptions? Where's the truth? Because I see a lot of things, I hear from other people, and I never really settled on what is the truth. Okay, and the truth is that thing that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to actually circle back to what Hop said, but not yet. I'll answer your question first, Phoenix. So Rainforest, for those who don't know, was a furry convention in Seattle that ran for, if I remember correctly, it was 9 or possibly 10 years. I think it was 10 years, actually. All right. So I was involved as a staff member since the first year, and my level of involvement kind of just went up and down a little bit depending on, if I can say it this way, the politics of the year. There were always times when, there's always going to be
politics.
Yeah, there was definitely times where things could have gone better in terms of just how I handled it, how people handled things with me. So it was it was an interesting event in that it grew and grew and grew and grew and grew to the point where we were like, almost 3,000 people, if I remember correctly, at one point in one hotel.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of people for one hotel. Mm-hmm. And what we found is that as we grew, we were always open and let people kind of be themselves. We didn't believe in policing maybe the more extreme sides of the event, as long as you weren't being offensive or were too revealing or too sexual in nature in public. We didn't really say much because furry is a self-expression fandom, and to counter that with rules that say you're not allowed to express yourself in this way or this way. And it's like, well, then what about all these other things that are similar to it? Like, if you're talking sexuality, what if wearing a fursuit is a kink for me? But you allow that, so why are you allowing that and not someone wearing a diaper, which is covering you up? So why is that wrong compared to this? And so we didn't want to play that rule, and there was a lot of things that we did that was controversial because of that. We chose not to stop people from doing some of the edgier things in the fandom. as long as I said, it wasn't over the top. Like if someone walked in with, if I can use the term assless chaps, then we're going to get told. And in fact, that happened. But yeah, there's a famous picture of a guy who was wearing a pup hood and a diaper. And there was a photo of that saying that this was rainforest. What's not said in that photo is the staff member that was literally walking towards him as the photo was taken to tell him he needed to put something else on. And this guy had walked in off the street wearing that. So it's like,
well, what was he? What did he buy a weekend pass? Was he like a convention member?
Sorry, say that again.
Was he a convention member or just some guy off the street?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to change my headset again there. Unfortunately, I didn't hear you there.
It's okay. It's all right. I could wait.
I'm running out of battery on my Bluetooth.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So anyways, no, I heard you there. Okay, so I'm good now. Cool. Yeah. So say again, what did you say?
Was he a event member, such as did he buy a membership pass? Was he part of the convention, or was he just a guy off the street?
Literally walked in off the street, and we had a lot of that happening in Seattle because we're talking Seattle's a huge fandom.
So that's so hard to operate in, because if this is just a citizen coming off the street and doesn't have an event pass around his neck, it's like, how are you supposed to monitor stuff like that?
And that's what we were constantly exactly. And we were constantly dealing with stuff like this where because Seattle's such a big place, there would be a lot of people in alternate culture, a lot of rave culture, a lot of I don't want to single out any one community, but like different communities with alternate illicit substances were kind of the norm, and a lot of that kind of thing tended to kind of start filtering in that they weren't even furry. They were just coming because we knew how to have a good time, and their culture kind of worked with our culture.
We want to have a good time too. That's all. Just grow up. Yeah,
exactly.
That's awesome. We're buying a weekend pass. No, we got a hotel room. Yeah, I can totally see the conversation.
Yeah. So here's the problem. So now you had situations where there was an actual market for things like illicit substances in the convention that we did not want.
Yeah.
And we tried to avoid it as much as possible. But like, there's only so much you can do when literally the hotel across the street was where you went to get drugs. Like, as an example, like all the drug dealers because Seattle, they just like every drug dealer that knew about the thing had set up and bought a room across the street. And you just knew that if you went, people knew if you went there, you could get what you wanted and come back. We can't even stop it because it's not even in our hotel. So we called the cops on it, of course, but there's only so much they're going to be able to do because they don't know who's doing it. Right. Yeah. So it's like, anyway, and at that point it's already too little too late. So now it's like, so we ran into that situation. We ran into a situation where alcohol was just over the top. Like people were walking around with open beer and just, which they weren't allowed to do because it's, it's a licensed facility, and, all kinds of problems like this. So we would stop people where we could, but we were on a decline in staff. We had a low decline staff, a huge uptick in attendees.
Yeah.
And so we did everything we could, but the main things that happened, we had someone broke a toilet, and we don't know if it's because the guy was just very, very large because he was, or if the toilet had a problem, or if it was sabotaged. But on the first day of the event, he comes out and there was a flood of water that comes out of this bathroom in the middle of the lobby of the hotel.
So basically, this is a bath. This is a toilet within the lobby or an actual private room.
It was a bathroom that was off the lobby of the hotel. So it's not a private room.
It's public accessible then. It's
publicly accessible.
That's awesome.
He walks out basically in tears, his pants basically at his ankles, but he's wearing his underwear, and there's just water coming out everywhere. It just so happened that was also directly above the apparently the server room for the hotel.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So it flooded their server room. That was one example. There was a number of other things, and we still don't know what actually happened there. We think it probably was him but it could have been someone sabotaging. We don't know. We have no idea. There was a rumor a bunch of people were drinking alcohol in the hot tub area, which you're allowed to do, but all of them had glassware. So we walked in there and said, guys, you can't have glass bottles out here. Can you please pour something into something else? Because there were so many people, it started playing telephone that those jerks and Rainforest staff said, we can't drink. Well, screw them. And someone grabbed a bunch of towels, plugged all the jets of the hot tub, and burnt the hot tub out. and like literally like burnt all the jets out.
There's a convention called Ad-Star, which is a book convention, a little bit of Star Trek behind it.
Yeah.
And basically 3 years ago, on the third floor, someone just decided to rip open the fire hose on the floor and just turn it loose.
Yeah.
And the convention's going, we don't know what the fuck is going on. But now you're talking third floor, second floor, third floor water damage. And it's like,
wow. I had a guy that hung his fursuit off of a sprinkler head. That was the last time he ever did that, I'll tell you.
What's this, sorry?
He hung a fursuit off of, he used the hanger, and he hung the hanger off of the sprinkler head in the hotel room.
Oh, that's great! Yeah. That's awesome!
What you don't realize is that's glass, and once that breaks, it sets off the fire.
Exactly,
it flooded 3 or 4 rooms worth all the way down.
Oh, that's even more fantastic. Yeah. Oh my gosh, because the thing is that what we have at KCC, we got kind of lucky with the dynamics, is that we run a family-friendly event at Kitchener City Hall. So the thing is that people are going to bring alcohol in, City Hall security gets involved. It's just that simple. People have their own hotel rooms. We'll book it for them, but the thing is, when they come in, they use their own credit cards. So any problems or any expense to take place, that's on them. And that's basically from past relationships with other events I've been part of. Because again, when you get the client spending their own credit card, they're responsible for their own space. Anything that happens to them, that's between them and the hotel, not us.
Yeah. And the only ever
it's I mean, you'll just get everybody in different situations. Like Rainforest was just one bad situation after another, and pretty well almost all of them happened in a way that the staff couldn't have affected even if we wanted to. It's just
that's hard. What we got here?
Question from Everybody Loves Gav for the panel: worst ever horror stories at a convention?
Well, that's a tough one.
for me, that's fairly easy, believe it or not. The worst thing that I would have to think of is probably this year's event, when we got all those emails coming in saying there's going to be some difficulties in the public washroom. And it's like, no, we're stepping up, because basically people were trying to hit on the hashtag Kitchener Comic Con's not safe. And it's like, no, we took that, we wrestled that son of a bitch right down the fucking ground. We just didn't get the City Hall security involved. We got the Region of Waterloo Police involved. We had our own staff members that had their own certificates and stuff like that. We had that stuff locked in and locked down. Nothing was going to fucking happen, period. End of sentence. And that was my mentality walking into that challenge. But the thing is, outside of that, that things have been pretty civil, because there's usually a line. And one of the few things we've always been broadcasting is that Kitchener Comic Con is a family-friendly event.
Well, and my story, it's not, again, it's nothing that we've ever had happen at our event, because our events have been pretty clean, which is nice. I think part of that's because of the venue, because no one's going to be fucking around at City Hall.
No,
which is a good thing. But we had one year, because we usually reach out to local LARP groups to come in and do our weapon prop check. In exchange, they get a table to advertise their LARP table or whatever for free. And one year we had a LARP group come in, and I guess they went back to their motel or hotel and had a little bit too much to drink, and husband and wife got into it, and there was fist fights in their So imagine this: day one they came in fully decked out in their costumes, they were all gung ho, good to go. Day two they all come in their street clothing, really pissed off, and they're like, we don't know if we're going to be sticking around.
Yeah, those conversations were lovely to go through as I pulled each one. I was saying, okay, I'm going to take my Mr. Hop off for a second. What the fuck's going on? They go, what? Why am I hearing there's a fist fight? It's 8:30 in the morning. The day hasn't been started yet. What is going on between you and your people? Oh, they got drunk. They did this. This is awesome. Here's the bottom line. This is my house. Everything insurance-wise is under my fucking name. What the fuck? Get your people in line. Apologies took place, stuff like that. Understandings took place. I said, look, if you guys want to fight for every reason, that's fine. don't do it on my house. It's as simple as that. If you can't grant me that particular thing, then you got to go home. Just go home.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it didn't happen on site. That would have been
exactly. But it happened in our overnight hotel, which is like, oh my god.
I got it. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. I think I'm just commenting on oh my godness. So please,
continue. I got two. If you want to hear, one happened to be personally. One was just what I've observed. Had it been 2017 Seattle Comic Con, I ended up getting stuck in the elevator with a bunch of Pikachus. What had happened was my suit, when I'm wearing it, I'm at least, I want to say about 210, give or take, soaking wet. In the suit, I'm at least 250. So what happened was I got into the elevator to go to my hotel room, and the elevator stops. Right, I thought no big deal. Goes next floor, and there's about 10 or 8 Pikachus that get on the elevator with me. So I'm pushed back to the wall, and my suit is pretty hefty. So I'm back up against the wall, and I jokingly said to one of them, hopefully none of you farts, or we'll get stuck. Next thing you know, we get to the 5th floor, and the elevator stops. I'm looking at all of them and goes, which one of you did it? And they're going, don't look at me. And they go, I didn't do nothing. Says, all right, well, maybe it's just the elevator trying to... somebody's pushed all the buttons, and we're just going floor by floor. We wait. 10 minutes go by, we haven't moved. We ended up having the Seattle Fire Department show up and extract us from the elevator. And the confused look on those poor firemen's face when they opened it up. And one goes, what the hell is going on in here? And he goes, don't ask me, just I'm with my furry babies. So they all get out, and just the look of shame I had on a lot of them. The firemen didn't know what the hell was going on, but that's Seattle for you. The other one takes place in Texas. I had the Hells Angels show up at a convention.
Oh, that's lovely.
I won't go into branch or which one because that kind of stuff is serious.
Yes.
But I had been going through registration to get in the doors, and there's about 4 or 5 bikers, all dressed in clad, wanting to get into the convention. They said some other people dressed in Sons of Anarchy hoodies and thought they was one of their events.
Oh, that's great.
That's as far as it goes for me for weird experiences.
I've got one for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rainforest again. Rainforest was, I should point out, by the way, just to go back onto the Rainforest topic a minute, the only people who complain about Rainforest were the people who didn't attend it.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah, it's if you look at the people that really, really, really hate the event and hate what it quote unquote did to the fandom, they probably never went. It's very rare that they did, and if they did, they probably had a very different experience than a vast majority of the people. So I mean, I have nothing but fond memories of that event. Honestly, even the last year was, while it was kind of crazy, it was fun. It was legitimately fun. So one of the things that, as I mentioned before, there was a lot of drug users, a lot of illicit substances going around, and for the most part, that's your business. Nobody needs to worry about it. But every once in a while, you'll get someone who chooses to make it the business of everyone else. One such person, I could name names, but I won't. He's been publicly outed for this. But either way, he decided to take mushrooms. And mushrooms are hallucinogen, if you aren't aware. Mm-hmm. And he took far too many than he should not have taken as many as he did. Okay. His person who was supposed to be watching him decided that it would be a good idea to go off site and hotbox their car because they weren't allowed to smoke on grounds. So they would take their car out, hotbox it, and then come back. So they were out doing this while this guy basically had his initial hit of the substance. The person that was also in the room with him was just completely out, so didn't think to stop him from stripping naked and then opening the door to the courtyard, which had a pool around it, and then running around naked, screaming at the top of his lungs because something was attacking him. He wouldn't say what, but something was attacking him. So at one point he was trying to get away from whatever it is that's attacking him, so he scaled a vertical latticed metal fence. And we're talking this is at least 6 foot high, probably more, and it's vertically latticed, so who knows how the heck he climbed this thing. And he's naked, Okay, because he couldn't get in because the door was locked because you needed a key to get in the pool. So he wanted to get away from. I guess he thought he was on fire or something. He wanted to get in the pool. Okay. So he climbs this and is screaming, of course. And Superman's off the top of this, into the garden bed or whatever that was there. Does like a tuck and roll and ends up in the water. Now, he, of course, was not expecting to be in the water, so he starts freaking out and just splashing around and whatever. My friend, who happened to be in the pool at the time, goes over to try and help him. He gets punched in the face, clawed, everything else. He had scars, actually, all the way down him from this. They grab him, pull him to the outside of the thing, of the pool, pull him out of the pool. By this point, there's a couple people that see this, and he is kicking and screaming and everything else.
Because he thinks he's drowning, yeah.
Hold him down out of the water at this point. The staff, of course. Sorry, I need to stop kicking that.
It's adding atmosphere to your story.
The staff, of course, had to close off the pool, which is a significant part of the hotel. So they had to actually block off hallways and stuff. So this became a huge thing. Everyone was aware something was going down. Nobody knew what it was. So then it became this thing where nobody knew what was actually happening. So then a lot of people said, oh, someone fell in the pool. Someone drowned. Someone got shot. Someone got stabbed, and got stabbed was the predominant theory that everyone had because we had blocked everything off. So the RF stabber, Rainforest Stabber, became a thing. Someone even registered a Twitter account on this, that the RF Stabber was going to come get you next year, and it was so damn funny. I
mean, like, I don't know, like, he may or may have not used his tool in a stabbing motion.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
What's going on? He didn't mean to stab the crap out of the person. He's a little upset. He's on mushroom.
The worst part of the whole situation was the guy we thought, okay, well, whatever. People make mistakes. He was on a bad trip. That happens. No big deal. So he goes to the hospital. He is tweeting about how awesome it was and how he's going to make sure he does the same thing next year.
Well, that's great. That's awesome. So a couple of passes there.
So he was banned, and not only was he banned, but the person who had the hotel room was banned as well because it was his responsibility for keeping this guy safe, and he wasn't there, and it was his room that it happened in, so he's banned too. So don't let people do crap in your hotel room. That's a thing. By the way, I was part of that decision, and I agreed with it fully. And here's the thing. He had 1 year where he had to just basically not attend. He would have been fine. Guess what he did the next year?
I've got no idea, but I'm waiting with bated breath.
So, someone found out that he was planning to attend. So, the president of our board contacted him and said, look, man, you can't attend. Just don't make the trip from California. It's not that hard to not come from California for this event. You'll be fine. Just wait a year, and you're welcome next year because our ban is only for 366 days. Or 370 days or whatever, right? And he's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to come. So guess what? So we have friends of his tell us, oh no, he's actually here. And we're like, wait, what? So he wears a gas mask and like a cosplay to try and make it look like we're not going to know who he is. But of course, someone says, yeah, he's going to be wearing a gas mask. We're like, aha. So we see a guy in a gas mask coming in from the parking garage. He sees us and books it across the freaking hotel, like a foot chase, full-on foot chase across the parking lot until we had to actually corner him. So he finally stopped. Didn't touch him, of course. You're not allowed to touch people down in the States. Yeah. And cornered him, bring him to the hotel, and he now has a lifetime ban from all Hilton properties ever. So congratulations, you are the biggest idiot ever.
There you go. Ta-da!
That is incredible.
That's just one story. I have a whole series, but I won't get on it.
That's probably for the best.
I guess that could be for a whole nother show.
Sure I understand.
Oh, hello, Siri. Apparently, I said something.
What's that?
I was gonna say, it seems like all of the things that happen are people off the side of the street. Good example, the guy that pulled the fire alarm and tried bleaching that one hotel.
Yeah,
it seems like a lot of the degeneracy doesn't happen within the people attending the con. It's people on the street trying to search it.
Or very, very, very strong minorities. I mean, like the thing is, even Rainforest, if you look at the people that actually actively caused problems for the event, if you're not talking about the fact that a lot of people were drinking, which in itself the hotel didn't even care about, it was more the fact that, like, you know, the drug use, the breaking of the hot tub, the various other things that have happened over the years that we offered to pay for that the hotel said no, but then suddenly corporate says, well, you did this, and this, and this, and here's all the money that you cost us over the last 6 years of you being in our event, our venue. And we're like, we offered to pay for every one of those. What are you even talking about? But at that point, they already just want you out. It doesn't matter what you did. Now you're just a bad person. Get out.
Well, it's not quite you. It's the clients that are coming in, and that's the unfortunate part. And the thing is that they can't rent you a ballroom if they know that their hotel's going to be trashed beyond the money that's coming in. Like, the thing is that they're being paid like hundreds of $1,000s just in tips.
Yeah.
Be like,
it wasn't the money.
Mr. Hot,
wasn't the money.
You've been part of like AN, like Anime North and that stuff.
Yeah.
We've had our differences with Delta and things like that, and pulling teeth to get these things, because, you know, it's easier for them to book weddings and, you know, have 75 different dance troupes and hockey teams in their hotel at the same time.
Was the best it could contend with.
Rather than have one convention. They would rather have homeless off the street than they would have a convention in there.
And they have that.
And they have that.
Especially in today's time.
But the thing is, it's like, you know better than anybody else that this is a game that these hotels play, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to squeeze every dollar they can out of conventions and everything else. And if they don't like you, then it's like, when you go back next year, what you paid $5,000 for last year is all of a sudden $15,000.
Yep.
For no reason.
Yep.
So quick shout out to my friend Vinny. He says, Finn, you're a great host. Please tell more stories.
Thank you. No, you're 100% right, Crumb. That was, I mean, something that every convention deals with, is just the cost factor, and making it worthwhile to the hotel and the venue is almost as important as your attendees. Because if you don't have a venue, you don't have an event. And we have been very, very fortunate that Vancouver Pony Expo, as well as BronyCon before that, and even Vancouver up until the last few years, had we are still using this venue called the Executive here in Vancouver. And shout out to the Executive guys. We love you. You guys are great to us. We love what you do for us, and they've always been great. But they know what to expect, and we tell them what to expect. You will sell lots of rooms. You will have lots of rooms. I mean, Rainforest alone in 1 year was something like $250,000 worth of hotel rooms.
Wow.
You know, I mean, you can't turn your nose up at that. Like, even if we trashed the hotel, which, by the way, we didn't, according to most people at the hotel, then
with the affidavits,
but yeah, here's the thing. I mean, if they want to nail you to the wall, they're gonna nail you to the wall. It doesn't matter how good you were. Right? You want to talk about bad conventions? Go look at how much damage happens at police conventions, at fire conventions, any of the people that we consider to be upper medical conventions, any of those people. I heard stories from the hotel that said that there are multiple TVs thrown out the window onto the street below. Multiple, not just one, like a couple. Yeah. And like, anyway, like, as far as fandom goes, fandom is tame. We are tame. It's just that a lot of people think that we're bad because a couple bad eggs are here and there, right? But no, we're as a whole, we're pretty good.
I like to add one more thing, if Crumb doesn't mind bringing this up.
Go for it.
With the Syrian crisis that happened, it was Finn's convention that welcomed all these people that came from another different country that was being bombarded and ravished. It was their community that opened up and brought these animals to life for these children. I have the article if you don't mind me sending it to you.
Yeah, to be clear, it wasn't my convention. I was just involved with it. I mean, Vancouver is no one person's convention. I was certainly involved with it, but that's not to say it's my con. It's not. But yeah, we did have the hotel that I mentioned, the Executive Hotel in Richmond specifically, was housing a number of Syrian refugees at the time. And there's actually a video on my YouTube that has quite a significant number of views that shows actually a bunch of fursuiters bouncing around and having fun with some Syrian kids. It got on the news and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I posted it into the chat if people want to check that out there.
Perfect.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was neat. So there's a lot of neat stuff that comes out of it for sure.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And honestly, these types of things, I'm really happy to see, like, because I mean, conventions in general, and furries as well, because furries they just hit a lot, like, right across the board in terms of accessibility for fans and I don't know, appropriateness for age groups, I suppose, too, because most of the furries that I know, they know how to act around certain demographics, right?
Mhm.
Like there are some furries that are inappropriate all the time, but that's who they are as people. Whereas you have other people who are like they're different people. Like when they're around kids, they see kids, they act appropriately for different groups. So I think it's a really important thing. I do appreciate you, Finn, coming on and sharing your knowledge about that stuff and talking about and the bronies and stuff like that. I've certainly learned a bit more. That's for sure. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Phoenix, did you have anything else for us?
No, it's always a good time talking with you guys. Finn, thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Glad to have you on.
Awesome, and I'll give you a chance for any final thoughts there, Finn.
If check out Halloween.ca, HOWLOEEN.ca. Check out check out Vancouver.ca. Those are the two events I'd love to plug the most. And happy 10th anniversary. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Thank you to everyone that's involved in that show for being just awesome to all of us and giving us something to really celebrate through the years.
Excellent. Mr. Hawk, final thoughts.
Another good broadcast. We brought some very interesting things to the forefront here, especially on My Little Pony 10th Anniversary Day, which worked out quite well. Shared some more stories about different convention stuff. I'd like to thank our two guests that showed up today because that was fantastic. I was going to ask you, let's have one more final shot of this wonderful handmade pony that was there, which is awesome.
Lovely. Yeah. That's really amazing. Yeah, and big thanks to all the people in the chat as well. You guys supporting us. It really means a lot. Phoenix is one of our Supreme Canuckleheads for our Patreon. So Supreme Canuckleheads get the honor of joining us in studio anytime that they want to. So this has been made possible by Patreon. So thank you, Phoenix, for setting this up. It's been a great stream, great talk. And as always, if you want to check us out on Patreon, the links are in the description below. I've included the links for Halloween and Vancouver. So if people want to check them out, that they can check them out easily in there as well. And one more time for anybody who missed it before, Finn, how can they find you?
Probably best way is on Twitter, which is Dolphin Aphinity, misspelt with APH. So Dolphin, there's the word dolphin with Aphinity. And yeah, probably the best way to reach me. I'm also on all the different social medias, but hit me there first.
Fantastic. Well, thank y'all. And that has been it for us today. If you guys want to stick around just for a brief moment after the show, we'll give our parting goodbyes. But as for the chat, you guys are awesome. Thank you guys, as always.
The best chats on the YouTube ever. The very best.
Yes.
I'm feeling so much better with the new call votes. It's awesome.
And as we say here, keep your stick on the ice and until next time. Bye-bye.